Hello everyone, welcome to week 9 of Codivate Python class. We have a very interesting topic for the day. It is called dictionaries. We will learn how to use dictionaries in Python. So your question may be, what are dictionaries? So they're similar to lists in the sense that they can store many values, but there are also some differences. For example, dictionaries consist of key value pairs, and they don't have an order like lists do. For example, we know how lists we can have indices for each position. For dictionaries, we don't do that. We only access the values using keys. Another feature of dictionaries is that they are iterable since they have many values. And in order to understand a dictionary in Python, we can think of dictionaries in the real world, where we have words as the keys and their definitions as the values. Think about it. If we want to find the definition for something in a dictionary, we go based on the word. We find the word, and then based on the word, we have a definition, which would be the value. I guess in order to understand dictionaries well, it would be better to look at the syntax and then go from there. So, in order to create a dictionary, we have the typical assignment that we usually do, variable name equals, and then the dictionary. This is the new part here. So the entire dictionary is contained in curly braces. And within these curly braces, we have a bunch of key value pairs. So we have a key value pair here. This is the key, and they're separated by a colon. So this key pairs up with this value. They're both strings here, but we can make it any type we want. We can have floats, ints, booleans on either side of these. One thing to notice is that for each key value pair, they are separated by a comma. So between each key value pair, similar to what we have with lists, we need a comma. So this is just one way to format a dictionary nicely. We have each key value pair on a different line, but it's not necessary to do it like this. If you wanted to, let's say you had only maybe one or two values in your dictionary, you could put everything on one line. But this is just here, just so we can clearly see which key goes with which value, and we see all the commas here. So it is possible that we want to start out with an empty dictionary and then later add values to it. In order to do this, these are the two ways we can do that. We could say dictionary and then assign to it empty curly braces without any of the key or values that we saw here. This will just create an empty dictionary. Or what we can do is just say assign to the dictionary variable we're creating dict and then parentheses. This does the same thing as this, just depends. If you want to clarify that and just let yourself know that you're making a dictionary, it might be useful to use the second one. Alright, now that we learned how to create dictionaries, let's learn how to access items inside of them. Let's say we have a dictionary here called Gradebook. It has student names as the keys and a list of grades as the values. Like I said, we can have any data type to be the keys or the values. Here we have strings as the keys, and the values are a list of ints. So, if we wanted to access something inside a dictionary, this is the syntax for how to do it. Let's say we wanted to access Billy's list of grades. Let's take a look at this syntax here. We use the name of the dictionary, followed by square brackets, and inside those square brackets, we specify the key name. In this case, we specify Billy. One thing you'll notice is that we don't use an index here because there is no index. The only way we can identify the values in the dictionary are through the keys that line up with them. So since we want this one, this list of grades, Billy's list of grades, we have to specify that the key is Billy. Now, if we were to print this inside a print statement, gradebook square brackets Billy, Python would do it like this. It would go to the gradebook dictionary, look for the key that is Billy, and give us the corresponding list. We would print that out to the console so we see that we get this list of all 90s. Well, we can also treat this as a regular list, gradebook and then some key, because they're storing lists. Based on what you know about lists and what we just learned about accessing items in a dictionary, what do you think this will print? Now would be a good time to pause the video, make a prediction, and then play when you're ready to review. Alright, let's go through this problem step by step. We want to print gradebook Bob 2. So what is this doing? In our gradebook dictionary, we are looking for the value that has a key of Bob. Well, which one has a key of Bob? It's this last one here. So you can think of this first part, gradebook Bob, as simplifying to this list, 78, 65, 54, 0. Now this becomes a simple problem of finding the correct item in the list. And we know that indexing in a list starts from 0. And we want the item at the index 2. 0, 1, 2. And since we have that inside a print statement, that will appear on our console, and our output is correctly printed as 54. Alright, so we saw how to access items in a dictionary. Now let's learn how to manipulate or change items in a dictionary. So, in our previous example, as I mentioned, we saw how to deal with accessing items. Now if you want to add something, for example, that's one way of manipulation. This is the syntax for doing it. We just have to pretend as if the key already exists and then assign a value to it. So in this case, gradebook of John, that's our new student here. And to that, we assign 100, 0, 100, 0, this list. What this will do is it will create a new key value pair within the gradebook that looks just like this, but has this John as a key, have a colon, and it will have his list of grades as the value. So we are adding this new key value pair to the gradebook using this syntax. So one thing that we saw with lists is that we can use the append method. We can't use the append method to directly add something to a dictionary, but we can use the append method to work with lists. For example, here, we know that gradebook Bob has this value, 78, 65, 54, 0. That's a list. We're working with a list. We're just accessing a list within a dictionary using the key syntax. So right now, you can think of this gradebook Bob as just this list. And we are appending to that list an 89. So what this will do is this will add an 89 to Bob's list of grades. Just to clarify, we are not adding a new item in this one. We are adding a new item to the dictionary in this first example that has a key of John and a value of this list. In the second example, we are only changing one of the existing key value pairs by adding something to the value. Alright, so you may be wondering, there is no index in a dictionary, so how do we loop through it? Well, we can use a for each loop. We can't use the for I in range or we can't use the while loop, but we can use this because this will just go through each item. So, since we know that this is the syntax for looping through each item, so for example, for item in this schedule dictionary, print the item, this brings up an interesting question. What will be printed? Will it be the keys, the values, or will it be both? Well, now would be a good time to pause the video, make a prediction, see if you can figure it out, and play when you're ready to review the answer. So the correct answer in this case is the keys. It will print out the keys. So when it says for item in schedule, you can think of as item. Let's go back and review our for loops. Item is taking on the value of each one of these numbers here. So for each item in the schedule, print the item. So the first time we go through this loop, we print 1. Second time we go through the loop, we print 2. Then we print 3, and then we print 4. If we wanted to print all of the values instead of all the keys, all we would have to do is use the same syntax, and inside the print statement, we have to use schedule, and then in square brackets, we would put item. Okay, so using what we just learned about for loops and dictionaries, let's do a practice problem. This practice problem is called key from value. We have to write a function, which is what we learned about last time, that takes in two parameters, a dictionary and a target value, and returns the key in the dictionary that has a value of the parameter target value. So for example, this is a sample function call. Let's say our function is called key underscore from underscore value, and it's taking in two parameters, testdict, which is the name of our test dictionary, and value 1. And what this should return, keyword is return, not print, what this should return is the key that goes with this value. Well, we saw that if we want to get a value from a key, all we have to do is name of the dictionary, square brackets, and then the key inside of the square brackets. However, if we want a key from a value, how would we do it? So if you have any idea already, you can pause the video and go ahead. Otherwise, if you're not sure, I'll give you a hint after you resume, and then we'll go over the answer. Alright, I'm assuming you want a hint at this point. So the hint for this is to use a for loop to loop through each item in the dictionary. So remember, when we're looping through with a for loop, that will look at the keys and check, is the value for the current key equal to the target value? And if it is, return the current key. And another way you can improve your code is if we make it through the entire dictionary and we don't find any key that has the specified value, we could just return a string that says that the value is not in the dictionary. Alright, you can pause the video after the hint, and now we will go over the answer. So, as we saw before, we named our function key from value. Once again, review from previous week. We start off each function with def for define. We are defining a function. But we need our parentheses to specify the parameters. This function is taking in two things, a dictionary and a value. We need our colon, which will create the indentation and specify what our function is actually doing. Now let's go through each line within this. The first line is the for loop. So for each key in the dictionary, we can read this as a for each loop. For each key in the dictionary, we are checking this condition. If the dictionary of this current key, so what this is doing is it's checking the value of the current key. And if that value of the current key, that's what this is, the value of the current key, is equal to the target value, which we specified above here in our parameters, then we return the key, because we're just looking for the key that has the specified value. So this is checking, does the key have the specified value? And if it is, return the key. Otherwise, if we make it through our entire for loop and we haven't returned anything yet, that means that the value is not even in the dictionary. In that case, we can return a string, and the string is just whatever value they entered is not present in the dictionary. We are casting this value as a string and concatenating it simply because we don't know if this value was an integer, a float, a boolean. It could be a string, but just in case, we're going to cast it as a string and concatenate it. As usual, always a good idea to test our code. We created our test dictionary, testdict, and we gave it a few keys and values. Let's do a function call where we actually have the value in the dictionary. Print key from value, test dictionary, which is a dictionary you want to look through, and we are looking for value 2. Well, in value 2, the key that has value 2 is key 2, and it correctly prints key 2. Now let's do a case where the value isn't even in the dictionary. We're looking at the same dictionary, testdict, and we're checking, is value underscore 5 inside this dictionary? Well, just by looking at this, we can see that it's not there. And this correctly returns value underscore 5 is not present in the dictionary because it's just not there as a value. Alright, let's look at some methods for dictionaries. The first one we're going to take a look at is the get method. This is a very important method. It takes in 2 parameters. The first one is necessary, but the second one is not necessary. It's just an optional parameter. But we'll go through each of them. So the way we would use this is the dictionary name, or that we use to store the dictionary as a variable, dot, which is what we use for a lot of methods, get, which is the name of the method, and as usual, we need our parentheses, and inside the parentheses, we have the parameters for the method. The first parameter, key, what this will do is it will give us the value at the key. So it's kind of similar to what we did with dictionary name, square brackets, and then inside those square brackets, we put the key. Another way to do that is to use the get method. We're getting the value at the specified key. But the cool thing about this method is that we can add an optional second parameter. And what this does is it assigns it a default value if it doesn't exist. For example, if the key that we're getting, we're trying to get the value at this key using the get method. If it doesn't exist, normally Python will just print none. But instead of just getting none, if we wanted to see that, okay, it doesn't exist, and if it doesn't exist, make that key and give it a certain value. Then we can put a comma and just assign a default value just in case it doesn't exist. Let's ground this concept in reality with a few examples. We are creating a dictionary here called inventory. Let's say we are in a grocery store and we want to record how many of each item we have. We have 25 apples. Apples is the key. 25 is the value. We have 40 cereal boxes, let's say, and 100 cones of ice cream. If we were to print inventory, name of dictionary, dot get, and then apples, what this will do is it will go to the inventory dictionary, find the apples key, and just return whatever value is there. We print the returned value, and we get 25. There are 25 apples in our inventory. But let's say we tried to print something that doesn't exist. Let's say we thought we had carrots, but it turns out there's nothing. We print inventory.get carrots. Well, there's no key here that is carrots, so none. We don't have any carrots. But if we have no carrots, let's say we wanted to specify that in our dictionary. We wanted to create a carrots key and assign it a value of 0. In order to do that, this is the syntax we would have to use. Print inventory.get carrots, 0. So what this will do is it will first check, do I have any carrots in here in this inventory? If it does, if it already has carrots, then it will just proceed as usual and give us however many carrots there are. For example, let's say we already had a key value pair that had carrots as the key and let's say 35 as the value. Then this would just give us 35 because it found it. However, if it didn't find it, then it would go to the option of giving it a default value. So what this does in our case here is it creates a new key called carrots and assigns it a value of 0. So after we run this code segment, we will have a new key value pair, carrots as the key and 0 as the value. One thing that this get method is very useful for is creating histograms, and we'll look at the algorithm that we use. So before that, let's just review what a histogram is. Histogram is commonly used in data analysis and statistics. It has a bunch of items on the x-axis here, or the horizontal axis. And on the y-axis, we have the frequency of how often each one of these items occur. For example, if we wanted to see the frequency of letters in Mississippi, we have 1 M, we have 4 I's, we have 4 S's, and 2 P's. So how would we create this with Python using our get method? Let's take a look at how we would do it. This is a simple 3-line algorithm that we can use to create a histogram from, let's say, letters in a string, or even items in an iterable like a list. We start off by creating an empty dictionary, letters underscore dict, and assign it the empty curly braces. Once again, we could also use the dict parentheses to create this, but in this case, since it's 2 characters, I'm just going to use this one. Now, as usual, to loop through items in a string, we could use a for each loop. What we're doing is letters underscore dictionary of the current letter. So we are making a key for the current letter. And to that we are assigning letters underscore dict.get letter comma 0 plus 1. So this may be very complicated, but let's go back to our histogram to see what exactly we need to do. What we're going to do is make a bunch of keys that will be our x-axis. So M will be a key, I will be a key, S will be a key, and P will also be a key. We are making the keys in this first part. We make the keys, letters underscore dictionary of the current letter. First time we go around, it'll be M. And to that we are assigning its current value, letters underscore dictionary.get letter, its current value if it already exists. Otherwise, we make a new one. If it doesn't exist, we assign it 0. That's because so far, if it doesn't exist, there's 0 occurrences. And once we've made it, or we've found its current value, we increment it by 1 since it looks like we found it, since we're looping through each letter. So the first time I go around, M will be assigned a value of its current value. Well, since it doesn't exist, we have to create it as a default value of 0, and we add 1 to that. So the first time I find M, it gets a value of 1. Same thing with I, same thing with this S. But the second time I get an S, this is how it would work. Letters underscore dictionary of the S, which already exists since I made it before. We're going to get its current value, which should be 1, since we have 1 S so far, and then assign to that 1. Since we already have that value present, we have that key present and has a value of 1, we ignore this default value, we just get its current value and increment it by 1. So this is basically the process it uses, summed up in a nice way. If the letter is already in letters dictionary, we increment whatever its key is by 1. Otherwise, we create the key and assign 0 to it, and then we'd add 1. Once we run through the code and we were to print this letters dict, this is how it would look like. M1, the key M has a value of 1, the key I has a value of 4, the key S has a value of 4, and the key P has a value of 2. This is very similar to the histogram that we had here. Alright, let's go through a few more dictionary methods. Another method that is pretty useful is the items method. If we call this method on a dictionary, what it does is it returns a list of the key value pairs as tuples. So, for example, we have our dictionary from the histogram, and we print letters underscore dic dot items, which is the name of the dictionary dot items, parentheses with nothing inside. We'll get the key value pairs as tuples. So what does this look like? We have all of this contained in dict items in parentheses. Don't worry about that. That's just letting us know that these are the dictionary items. This is the part we have to focus on. We have a list starting here. We know our list starts with square brackets and ending here. And inside this list, we have a bunch of tuples. We have M1, since that's the key value pair there. I4, that's the key value pair there. S4, that's the key value pair there, and so on. So when would this be useful? So let's say we wanted to loop through both the keys and the values at the same time. So we can use a for loop like this. We see that there is a key value pair each time. So we could do for each key value pair, we're now using two loop variables, in the letters dictionary.items, which it looks like this. So what this is basically saying, so for each tuple in this list of tuples, print the first part of the tuple occurs second part of the tuple times in Mississippi. The first part of the tuple is the letter, second part of the tuple is frequency. So each time we would print the specific letter occurs a certain number of times in Mississippi. This is a nice way to print everything in a simple manner onto the console from our dictionary. We can convert it from this data structure to a nice way to read on the console. Let's go through quickly some other dictionary methods. This is a Boolean. Before we get to the methods, let's actually go over this Boolean. Key in dictionary. This is a Boolean that returns true if the key is in dictionary and false otherwise. So we can look at this dictionary, this entire code segment, and also this print statement. You can pause the video and predict what you think it will print, and then we'll go over the answer. Alright, I'm assuming you had a go at it, and this prints true. Why would it do this? We're checking if pizza, the string pizza, is in the menu. Well, let's check our menu. Soup, salad, pizza, yep. This is a key in menu. So this prints true. Once again, we are checking for the keys. We're not looking for values. For example, if this said $3.99 in menu, that wouldn't return true. It would return false, since that is not a key, it is a value. The len method is the same way that it works for other iterables. Just one thing you have to remember is that each item it counts is a key value pair, not just this is one item, this is another item. This is considered all one item. You can make your prediction for this one and press play when you're ready. This would print 4 since we have 4 key value pairs. First key value pair, second key value pair, third key value pair, fourth key value pair. Once again, len in parentheses, name of the dictionary, is how we would use it. This is a new and interesting method. It's the del method. If you want to remove an item from the dictionary, we can use the del keyword and then menu, and in square brackets, the key. Dictionary name, square brackets, key. Before that, all we do is del. Del is short for delete. So what we're doing is getting rid of salad. So this will get rid of not just salad, but also its key value, its value in the key value pair because they are associated with each other. If we were to print the menu after deleting it, you'll see that there's no more salad in here. All we have is the soup, the pizza, and the pasta. So we can use .pop for dictionaries, but this is just a new way to get rid of items in an iterable, the del keyword. If we want, let's say, a list of keys of all the keys in a dictionary, we have to specify the name of the dictionary as usual, or the variable, dot keys and then our empty parentheses afterwards. This will give us a list of all the keys in the dictionary. For example, uh, our items list, which are the menu items like the food items. Those are our keys in this case. So if we create a list and assign to it menu.keys, and then we decide to print the list, you see that we have soup, salad, pizza, pasta. Once again, you'll notice that it has this keys surrounding this. This is just Python's way of letting us know that we're looking at the keys in the dictionary. We could do a similar thing with the values. This will return a list of all the values in the dictionary. Once again, in this case, we are going to call it prices list. Gets menu.values. This will give us a list of all the prices. If we were to print that, you'll see, once again, everything is encapsulated per se inside dict values. We have all the prices inside here. So this is a very interesting method. It's also pretty useful if you wanted to combine dictionaries. It's called the update method. So this one takes a parameter. It takes an iterable with pairs. We'll go into that a bit more depth as we go through the example. So what this does is that we have to specify the dictionary name dot update, and the parameter is iterable with pairs. So what this does is it will add all the items from the iterable with pairs to the dictionary as key value pairs. So for example, let's say we have a menu dictionary and we wanted to add a new item to it. Instead of, rewriting the entire dictionary with the new item, what we could do is just simply create a variable, assign to it like a small dictionary here, has one key, which is water, and one value, which is 099, and we can update menu.update the new item. What this will do is it will add this item as a key value pair into our menu dictionary. The thing is, we don't necessarily need only a dictionary. We could kind of do something which we saw with the items method on dictionaries. We could look at an iterable with pairs, a list of tuples we have. We have bread and sauce, 299, 199. Our iterable with pairs, list of tuples. We can also update our dictionary with that. And you will see that all of these items are now added to the dictionary as key value pairs once we print them out. Water, bread, sauce with their corresponding prices are all now inside this dictionary. The update method, to sum it up, used to add things to a dictionary. You could do it using other dictionaries or just other iterables with pairs. Iterables, just a quick reminder, is anything we can loop through or anything that has multiple items. All right, this was a pretty lengthy lesson. We finally made it to the exercises. If you want, you can pause the video and go through it by yourself. Otherwise, we will go through the exercises together after that. All right, I'm assuming you had a chance to do it, and now we will go through it together. Exercise 1. Write a function that takes in a list as a parameter and returns a dictionary histogram of the items in the list. For example, if our function was called list underscore to underscore dict, and we added the parameter of a list in here, this would return a dictionary of each one of the items in the list as a key, and the frequency it occurs in the list as the value. So we have 3 occurrences of 1, 2 occurrences of high, and 4 occurrences of 3. Let's go through the solution. We start off with defining our function, calling it list2dict, and in the parentheses, we're going to have an input list. This is very similar to the histogram method that we looked at before. Instead of looking at it with a string, now we're just using a list. We have our result dictionary that we're planning to return at the end of our function. Assign an empty dictionary. So for each item in the input list, instead of each letter, we could just name this loop variable anything we want. We could call it I, J, X, up to you. So for each item in the input list, we use the histogram algorithm that we looked at before. result underscore dictionary item in square brackets gets its current value if it exists plus 1, or its current value is being assigned to a default of 0 plus 1. At the end, we return the result dictionary. And once again, if you're having a bit of trouble understanding this, it would be a good idea to rewind the video and go back to this section where we cover this when it comes to an example with strings. We could do our test example here with a bunch of numbers. We can see that it correctly works. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 occurrences of 1, 2 occurrences of 2, 1 occurrence of 4, and so on. You could pause the video and confirm that this is all correct. Alright, write a function that renames a key in a dictionary. That is exercise 2. It takes in 3 parameters: the dictionary, the key to be replaced, and the key that should replace it. The value, however, should replace the same, only the key should change. One case to consider is what if the key is not in the dictionary? This is a big hint to use our in method or in boolean. So we're going to call our function rename key. It's going to take in 3 parameters as it told us: the dictionary, the target key that we're going to replace, and the replacement key that we're going to replace it with. So if the target key is in the dictionary, that's the first thing we have to check, because if the key we want to replace is not even in the dictionary, we can't do it. So if it is in the dictionary, we're going to do some code. I'll explain that later. Else, if that's not in the dictionary, we're just going to return a string that tells the user target key is not in the dictionary. So if it is in the dictionary, this is how we would do it. We would create a key value pair like this: dictionary, which is the dictionary that they entered, and the key is going to be the replacement key since that's the new key we want. And to that, we assign whatever value was at the target key that we needed to replace. After that, we have to delete the original target key because its value has been relocated to this replacement key. And we can return, if we want, a string that says key successfully renamed. Once again, it's always a good idea to test our code. So I've created a dictionary here called information. It has a bunch of key value pairs here. Place is New York City, time is 5 a.m. Eastern Time, and the attire is formal. So this is how it would work. We print rename key information, which is the name of the dictionary that we have to rename a key within, and we're going to replace place with city. So let's go back to our code and think about how it would do it. It would check if place is in the dictionary. Well, place definitely is in this information dictionary. Then what we're going to do is dictionary of city is assigned dictionary of place. What this will do is it will create a new key that has a value of city and assigns it the value of whatever place was. The value of place was New York City. After that, we're going to delete our target key that we wanted to replace. So we're going to delete place because we've already made a new key value pair that is city, New York City in the previous line. And we will return key successfully renamed. For example, if we see this, we print this function call, we'll see key successfully renamed. And once we print our information dictionary, we'll see correctly that we have time is 5 a.m., which didn't change, everything else is the same, but city is now New York City. The other case we have to check is what if the key that we wanted to rename doesn't even exist. Let's say instead of place, we thought it was location. And since location is not in the target dictionary, this would be false. We wouldn't do any of this. We'd go to the else and return target key is not in dictionary. So that takes care of our lesson. This is a very important lesson with dictionaries. If you are not sure about anything, you could review the video, reach out to us at our email or on the Discord, and stay tuned for next week's practice lesson.